Welcome to Reddit's Post Hunter. In today's episode, anesthesiologists. What are the best things people have said under the gas? I had a colonoscopy just last month and the lady who administered the propofol and I had a brief conversation like this. Me, how long is that gonna take to kick in? Huh, you'll be out in less than 10. I always win, with a big grin on her face. I started to feel it immediately after that and followed with, "You'll never take me down." I then recall laughing like a maniac, followed by nothing. I think her quip about always winning and obviously the propofol got me good, haha. Not an anesthesiologist but was a tech. Had a patient wake up violently. When he came to he said, "Sorry, I thought I was a shark." I was coming out of general anesthesia after a surgery to repair a broken leg. I woke up in my room with about a dozen very caring, kind friends and relatives who had all come to see that I was okay. I looked around, saw everyone giving shits about me, said, "Duck this," loudly and very clearly, and went right back to sleep. My friends thought it was hilarious. My mom was mortified. I'm an anesthesiologist. I was recently taking care of a 17-year-old kid and he looks at me and says, "Dude, I am high as duck." They almost never remember it afterward. Two of my fav, both patients coming out of anesthesia. Am I in hell? I responded, "No you're not, you're just in recovery." That sounds like something the devil would say. Count backwards from 100 to prove it. Or the one who stroked my unshaved arm while I was trying to keep him from pulling at his IV. And muttered, "You'd make such a great carpet eater. Yikes, you people really like hairy arm carpets." I love the implication that the devil can't count backwards. Not anesthesia, but patient was heavily sedated in ICU. Nurse gave an enema. Half-conscious response. "Honey, you know I don't like it that way." Edit, but stuff seems to be a high percentage move for metals. I have a similar story. Colonoscopy. Very prim and proper lady under sedation. As the scope was introduced, she exclaimed, "Oh, darling. You said you wouldn't do that anymore." When I was about to go out for surgery, they were strapping me down and told me it was so that I don't fall off the table. My last words were, "It's okay. 5-second rule." Last year they were knocking me out for a colonoscopy. It was the third time I had been put under in a year. As such, I had a curiosity. I had heard that when they knock you out you are still awake for a while. You just don't remember. So in the spirit of science I proposed a test with the anesthesiologist. When she started the medicine I would begin counting backward. When I would wake up we would compare what I remembered to what she observed. Plunger down. 99, 98, 97. I remembered nothing more. Minutes later I awoke. The anesthesiologist espied me and came over quickly. "What did you remember?" she asked. 97. She began laughing. "You got down to 7. My wife is an anesthesiologist and her best line from a patient is, "This is better than meth." Not an anesthesiologist, but I knew a guy who had surgery and afterwards wanted to go home. He wasn't recovered enough to, and the nurse wasn't gonna let him get up yet. He turned to the nurse and said, "You may not realize this, but I'm a ninja and we heal 3 times faster than normal people." At that the nurse stopped trying to keep him in bed. He stood and immediately ate the floor. I was about to be put under for a colonoscopy while the nurse was trying to position me in a way to make it easiest for them to work. I had my knees to my chest and was passing out from the gas. When I asked the nurse to paint me like one of her French girls, then passed out. Still makes me cringe. My friend while coming out of her C-section saying how beautiful the baby is and that he looks just like X. Her ex's name. With her husband standing right there. Was not a happy day. I was putting a girl who was about to undergo a serious amputation under heavy anesthesia. She wasn't going to sleep yet, so we had to give her a little bit extra. Don't worry, it was controlled. While going down, she started saying, "Mama, I watched porn for the first time the other day." She then started laughing like a complete lunatic right before passing out. That must have been the first good laugh I'd have had in a long time. You should have seen the look on the mom's face. My girlfriend had a paradoxical reaction to benzodiazepines. When I arrived to pick her up, the nurses were all like, "Oh, here he is." I knew something was wrong. She was staring at the floor and blushing. I asked what had happened. I couldn't stop talking. I couldn't stop talking about K-pop. After I got my wisdom teeth out, I was laying in the recovery room with my dad sitting next to me. For people who haven't had their wisdom teeth out, the doctors jam 2 things of cotton in your mouth to help stop the bleeding. My gassed ass looked at my dad and asked, "Is this what it feels like to suck a dick?" I was 16. Oh my gosh, what was your dad's reaction to that XD? He said. I wouldn't know the answer to that question. My sis went in for an emergency C-section. When she was waking up, the first thing she asked was, "Is he ugly?" Obviously referring to her newborn. When I was going night-night for a little procedure, they asked me if I had any last requests. And I replied Bohemian Rhapsody, so they paused and actually played the song. They let it go for about 3 minutes, then hit me with the drugs without warning. We were all singing the song too. Gastroenterologist said I needed a colonoscopy. He was a nice looking man, and reminded me that it might be weird for me since I'm a 21-year-old girl and he'd be doing the procedure. Few days later, they were pumping me with the anesthesia and I started to feel the effects pretty quickly. As they were wheeling me back, the doctor told me, "Don't worry, we'll be out of here before you know it." And apparently I responded, "No rush, I'd have a cute doctor like you up my butt any day," before passing out. I have a few. My first is a 17-year-old that just got her appendix out. She seemed really stoic and introverted when I first interviewed her. But when I was dropping her in the recovery room, she went into total bro mode. She keeps saying everything was ducking lit. She keeps saying "let's party bro" and responded to every question with a "duck yeah dude." My favorite though was a surgery on a lady in her 80s. She volunteered at the hospital and was a widow. In the recovery room I started hooking up her ECG. This involves attaching some cables to stickers on her up chest. When I reached for them, she tried to just pull her gown down and show me her breasts. I said, "No, you don't need to do that." She just said, "This is so exciting, it's been a while since I've been with a man." The nurse just started laughing and I got a little red. She then said, "It's sure getting hot in here." Sorry, it's been a while. I had to leave after that, I was way too uncomfortable. Patient here. I was in for a colonoscopy and endoscopy in a 2-for-1 deal. When I was about to be put under fully, but after being given something for my nerves, the following series of events occurred. Me. No small talk, just push the plunger. Well, okay. Me. Wait. Everything stops and the team looks at me startled. Me. You start from the top first. I'm too classy for ass to mouth. Tex bust out in a cackling laughter. Foreign gastro in heavy Czech accent. So, no. We use 2 different scopes. Tex still guffawing. It's okay, doctor. It was a joke. Me. Settles back down, grinning around the bracket in my mouth now. Push it. Tex still laughing and the gastro was still apologizing in a confused manner as I succumbed. Too many to count during my 15 years of practice. That's some good shit. Falling asleep mid-sentence. I want to have your babies. A 55-year-old woman to my medical student. You're really going to shove that whole thing up my ass? To the endoscopist right before a colonoscopy. Big or small, I love them all. 90-year-old woman talking to nurses about men. Do I need to take my underwear off? Teenager about to go into labor. I'm not sure how that happened. Another pregnant teenager. I don't want you to be too surprised by my tattoo. Conservative looking Asian man with a Pinocchio tattoo around his penis, with his penis as a nose. Where did all the American doctors go? Guy covered with swastikas to a room filled with Asian doctors and nurses. Today was a great adventure. Thank you for the patience. And please, if you like it, subscribe to the channel.